Right, Embracing Change by me, Kåre Sivertsen, the Managing Director for SceneChange Creative Consultants. So who am I? Well, I've been in London since the 90s, in fact. I came here in 95. I came here to train as an actor, first of all, and I've had a little stint in Peep Show. I've been sword fighting with Placido Domingo at the Royal Opera House. That was great fun. I refined my craft in weekly repertoire theatre across the country, Nottingham, Canterbury, Bournemouth, Wolverhampton even, all of those places. But change had to happen. So about 12 years ago, I set up my own business to do interactive training using my skills as a professional actor. So just to give you a flavor of what we do the graduate program for Oracle. We're on the preferred supply list for the Houses of Parliament. We deliver interactive workshops for them. We have a respectful behaviors workshop that we rolled out to 1,000 people at the Competition and Markets Authority, specializing in using actors and drama to raise awareness about behavior in the workplace. And since 2007, we've been doing mentoring and coaching programs for the Ministry of Justice. And yes, as Kåre mentioned, I'm the project manager for the Norwegian National Day celebration in London, 17th of May, which obviously didn't come to a plan that we were hoping to this year, but we'll be coming stronger and more fantastic celebrations next year. So, and I've also got a wife and 2 kids, so I've been juggling this homing, running a business thing for quite some time now. So just out of interest, who is on the call today? I think we've got about 14 attendees. In the quick chat function as we start, could you just let me know what industry you're working in? What kind of roles and industry, or what is your roles? I just want to have a little flavor of what you all do before we start the webinar for real. So in the chat function, please have a little type in on what you do. Employment solicitor, PIDA, thank you very much. Communication trainer, thank you, Kim. We can have a conversation about that. We're in the same field, I can imagine. Management consultant from Anneli, that's nice. I'm a lawyer, litigator, Mar, thank you very much, Mar. Event manager, Nyosha, thank you, Nyosha. Excellent. Any other people? What we do? Professional translator from Norwegian to English, EA to the ambassador. Excellent. Marketing events coordinator. Great. Fantastic. Business development from Kevin. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, so it's a human network. Gunnar Larsen. Nice to see you there, Gunnar. I think we met a couple of times. Healthcare field from Lena, and marketing and events coordinator from Anna as well. Okay, great, fabulous. There's a great section of society here today, and I'm very excited to be here and to talk to you all, and hopefully we can have some more conversations as we go. So what are the topics that we're gonna do today? So today's topics are explore how and why we react to change differently. We're all humans and we're all different, and we all have our different ways of reacting and responding to events that's happening in and around us. We'll look at how we and why we do that. How to spot our fight or flight responses. You know, we all have gut reactions, and sometimes we fly off the handle and we end up in a fight or flight or even freeze mode. That's certainly something that is happening. Manage rapid change. How do we do that in a VUCA world? I'll explain a bit more of what that means and what that stands for later on in the webinar. And embrace and conquer an ever-changing environment. How do we do that? How do we do that? So some of us came to London, maybe we have traveled, and we sought out change. We wanted to do something different. We wanted to be see new things and embrace change because we wanted to get something. So that's kind of the explorer within us, some of us have. So the other part of change is when the environment is changing against our will and beyond our control. For example, we have the COVID-19 situation that we all have to respond to, and that can be difficult, it can be challenging, and we all respond to that in different ways. So whether we like it or not, the only constant in life is change. And that's not a new phrase at all. It was coined by a Greek philosopher by the name Heraclitus, who lived 500 years before Christ. So change is happening, and it's changing more quicker and more rapidly than ever before. So why change? Right, we all remember, or some of us remember, this kind of a brick thing that we used to carry around next to our ear back in the 80s and early 90s. And why would we do that? You know, I looked at that with skepticism. I remember my dad, he had drilled the battery the size of a suitcase into his car in order to have a telephone in his car. Now, you know, why did you want to do that? Who are you going to call anyway? You use, I don't know. Anyway, but now, 25 years later, we can't live without one. We get kind of anxious and worried, even if we're out without it for, you know, a few hours. It's on constantly. We're on 24/7 these days. Right. Spring forward a little bit. We were all commuting about, you know, 10 weeks ago, or many of us were commuting into town. That was the thing we did. You know, we joined that crush, and now we're all on Zoom. And it's all nice to meet people on Zoom. But some of us prefer the face-to-face contact, even if it's a cram tube. It's some of the charm of living in a big city. Now, so the environment is changing. We are changing. We have to respond to the change. But the world, as we see it, is not as we used to know it. And the VUCA world, which I mentioned earlier, is a term that was derived from the US Army College back in the late 80s and early 90s, when the collapse of the Soviet Union meant that suddenly the enemy that we used to face up to were no longer in existence. So they suddenly had this huge army that didn't have any clear direction or purpose. So the VUCA world was coined. So what is that? It's volatility. It's the world is becoming more unstable each day, and it's changing fast, and it's changing rapidly, and it's not very predictable. So it's uncertain. Nobody knows what's going to happen in 3 months' time. When are we going to fly back to our home countries, or when are we going to be able to travel the way we used to travel? How long is it going to go on for? Nobody knows. We're in this uncertain time period like never before. So how do we respond to that is the key. And it's obviously complex. There's a multi-layered issues. There's travel, there's school, I'm trying to do homeschooling as well. Obviously not now when I'm doing a webinar, but you know, there's all these conflicting things that we have to respond to on a daily basis. And there's ambiguity. There's haziness of the reality. There's potential for misinformation, mixed meanings. Think about even a simple text can be misinterpreted. So the world is changing faster than we can keep up with, or we're trying our best to keep up with it. So now that the world is changing, I just want to have a little throwback to when we were growing up. So in the chat function, I just want to have a quick scan of what people wanted to be when they grew up. So hit the keyboard, everyone, and type in the chat function what you wanted to be when you grew up. Let's see it. Let's see what we come up with. I certainly wanted to be a professional footballer. Marine biologists, hairdresser, fighter pilots. Good night. Fantastic. Anyone else? What did you want to be? Air pilots and lawyer, vet, pop star, flight attendants. I want to be beautiful. You are beautiful, Kim, and make a difference. Interpreter, a glass blower, composer. Fantastic. There's lots of these incredible things that we had ambition to be when we grew up. We still chase our dreams. But my point is, recent analyses show that in 2030, about 85% of the jobs available won't have been invented yet. So who thought there would be such a thing as, for example, a cryptocurrency expert, for example? So these are the things that we need to be aware of, that the world is rapidly changing, and the only way that we can respond to it is to kind of join it. We need to we need to embrace the change, we need to be part of the change. We can't just sit back and expect the world to change around us to suit us. We have to run with it as we go. Somebody has no idea, it was uncertain from the beginning what you wanted to be. Thank you very much, Patricia. Great. So next up, we have our emotional reactions to change. So in the pictures, we had the commercial change from a mobile phone to this newfangled things that we can't live without, or there was a commute that is no longer happening. Everyone's working from home, or we are learning to work at a distance from each other. So our emotional reactions to change could be that I don't get it. I don't get the purpose. For example, the mobile phone. Why do you want to carry a brick around your ear all day? You know, why do we do that? I don't get it. So that could be your emotional reaction to it. You don't understand the purpose of it. You don't like it. I certainly didn't want to have like a 2-kilo brick hanging onto my ear, and you need a separate bag to carry it around as well. So I certainly don't like it. So I give it a thumbs down. And there's also perhaps a lack of trust, the people that you are buying those things from. For example, under these new tech companies, why do you want that big brick hanging around? I certainly don't trust them. So those can be some of the emotional reactions to change. And what can happen if it's a proper, big, massive event that suddenly happened to us, like the COVID-19 situation that we're all hanging on to, is that we go from 0 to 100 in 0.0 seconds. So what is happening is that suddenly one day we're just plodding along and everything's zen, we're all happy as Larry, and we're perfectly balanced, everything's normal, everything's predictable, we're at one with ourselves and we're quite contented, and we have a kind of a low body rhythm and everything's fine. And suddenly Jack comes out of the box, major impacts happen, and we get a massive surprise. I certainly did when the Brexit vote happened overnight. I was like, what is going on? This is crazy. How did that happen? And so what you have is an emotional reaction to a change event or an event that is beyond your control and is not easy to deal with. So what can happen is that you have what we call an amygdala hijack. Now, what is that? The amygdala, first of all, is the primitive part of the brain, or the emotional epicenter that we make decisions on based on how we feel, how we react to certain situations, and it's our gut instinct. And it's super fast. It's super fast. It's quicker than our rational thought brain. So sometimes we're faced with an event and we just say, nope, that's not for me. That is ridiculous. I can't be dealing with this stuff. So the amygdala is just behind your eyes there, you can see, and the higher cortex, or the prefrontal cortex, is where all the rational thought happens, which is in the forefront of our mind. So on the picture there, you can see the low emotion. We're calm, we're relaxed. But what happens in an amygdala hijack is that the higher cortex and the prefrontal cortex is disabled. So this explains why our default position when we're out of our comfort zone is to resist change. Because when we're in a high emotional state, cortisol and adrenaline, 2 hormones, rush to the brain and they shut down the prefrontal cortex. Also, what happens is that all your major blood circulation changes. It goes to the big muscles in order to support the fight or the flight mechanisms that's been triggered. So your muscles need to be ready to fight effectively. And therefore, there's a lack of oxygen that travels through your brain into your prefrontal cortex so you can rationally respond in a logical, factual way. So what's happening is that self-preservation, skepticism, and personal protection kicks in, and rational thought, sound judgment, and trust, it just disappear. Simple as that. It can literally be uncontrollable as well. But if we are aware of what is happening to ourselves in the midst of a gut reaction, or somebody cuts us up on the motorway even, you know, things like that. When it does happen, be aware that your prefrontal cortex may be just switched off and you can't think straight. So we just need to be aware of that. So when that moment happens again, we can take a step back and allow ourselves to not respond or react with a gut reaction. We can delay that reaction and ignite our prefrontal cortex and think clearly about what's the best way forward. Not easy, I'm not saying it's easy, but that's where we are. So be aware of your gut instinct, your gut reaction, and the amygdala hijack. So the term was actually coined by Daniel Goleman in his book, Emotional Intelligence, and why emotional intelligence matters more than IQ. It's a great, fascinating read. I encourage you all to pick it up. I'll cover it somewhat more later in the webinar as well. So the journey of change is many, and it's different for many of us, but tends to, in an ideal scenario, it goes through a pattern, and this is a pattern that was developed by Scott and Jaff, who were psychologists who derived this thinking based on the grief curve, which was originally developed by Kubler and Ross in the 70s. So the journey of change can be like this. So we're faced with this jack in a box, surprise elements, change is happening, whether we like it or not. That leads to, first of all, denial. Certainly it happened to me personally when the Brexit vote happened. There's lots of different opinions on that, but just talking from my experience. So I denied that it was ever happening. I buried my head in the sand for quite some time. It's not going to happen. There's going to be another vote. There's going to be another referendum. And then everything will get back to normal and we can carry on as normal. It's not. So I denied it. I resisted it. I tried to make sure that it didn't happen. So we were vocal politically, etc. Tried to revoke that decision. But after a while, you have to come to terms with the exploration of it is actually happening. What can we do in order to respond to it? So that's the stage 3. And the final piece in ideal world is that you commit to the new world, the new ways of working, or the new ways that the environment is, and you get on with it. So what we need to do is to move from looking to the past, denying the past, and resist the past. Sometimes we need to just join the movement of time and explore and commit and look to the future, and how can we embrace the future, the new future that is ahead of us. If we keep going to the future, looking backwards, we're in for a long haul. We're in for a difficult, so face the future head on and see how you can respond to it. And so the change begins at the edge of your comfort zone. That's absolutely sure, definitely from my perspective. So we went into lockdown and suddenly we were faced with this, I need to do homeschooling, I need to run a business, I can't actually go out into people's offices to train people anymore. My goodness, did we have some challenges. So some of the leadership programs that we were developing, we were having lined up a series of workshops, we had coaching circles set up, and we were in the room, people helping people to grow and develop. When we suddenly couldn't be in the room with people anymore, we had to do like many people, do what we do now. It is webinars, communicating via camera and on screens and with our phones. So we had no choice. We just had to do it. And the homeschooling bit, we were super ambitious. We did Joe Vicks, we did English, we did reading, we did maths, we did project work. We were literally trying to replace the school and run a business at the same time. And it came to a point where it was just impossible. Couldn't do it. It was too much. So something had to change. It was a lot of conflict and it was lots of, well, loud voices, I have to admit. So something had to change. So we scaled back on the ambition on the school homeschooling front of the peace and the harmony, which is more of your basic need as a human being. You need to be content. You need to be happy. You need to be in charge of your own destiny, and doing that, you can't do everything. So something had to give. So these are some of the changes that we had to do in our business, and I'm sure you have made major changes in your life as well. So in the chat function, so fingers to the keyboard, people. So in the chat function, what positive and successful changes have you made during lockdown, or how have you been managing this major change that we've all been going through? So I'll take a moment to gather your thoughts and type in what positive and successful changes you have seen or you have implemented since you've been at lockdown. Let's see what comes up in the chat function. Might be taking a little while for us to gather our thoughts. Moved on from PE Joe to go biking instead. Great, good night. Okay, so kind of ditch the looking at the television and just go out instead. Good stuff. I've started exercising much more regularly than before. Thank you, Emma. And Kåre, I've just accepted the situation. Okay, so you've moved on from the denial part. Okay, great. Kim, converting my services into online format. Great. Thank you very much for that, Kim. So other changes that participants have made. Working online, Annalie, thank you very much for that. Most of us need to embrace this new technology. Less stress, calmer lifestyle. Less commuting means more time for creating stuff and reading. Thank you, Rike. Less fear of missing out. Okay, so I'm missing, what came up here? No change work-wise, as I work from home office anyway online, and but starting following webinars, etc., to get new ideas. Great. And build up trust from within the working environment with working from home, personally focusing on personal growth and health. Okay, thank you, Paida. And Anna, I've been exercising a lot more. Great. Nyosha, eating healthier and do all events online rather than offline, but actually reaching a bigger audience. Yeah, excellent. You don't have to, well, if you're not in the room with people, you can reach much further. Fantastic. Spoken to friends and family more often. Also transferring my practice to online practice and learning a lot. Man, convinced my colleagues that technology isn't evil. Okay, great. Yeah, there's something to be said about this stuff that we got in front of us isn't trying to do any harm to you. It can actually be the source of a positive change. And we certainly learned to embrace it because we had to. You know, every Saturday we got the Zoom quiz with a group here as well. And it is a way of keeping in touch and keeping the human interaction alive and kicking. So the key to all of this is that we need to be adaptable. We need to make sure that we adapt to the environment around us and use whatever tool that we've got in order to stay ahead of the game. And there's 5 keys to survival. So adaptable people have 5 common traits. The great thing is you can all learn them. It's learned behavior. It's not that you have it or you don't have it. We can all learn through them through practice. And I'll go through them with you. So number 1, be purposeful. Find what is it that you can do that is with a clear direction, clear values and goal setting. It definitely helps to have a vision and a direction towards and work towards. And to coin a phrase, take back control. You need to take control of your own destiny, even if the world around you is rapidly changing, whether you like that change or don't like the change. Try to focus on yourself. What can you do in order to influence your own future and your own destiny? So the vision is the key. So every successful inventor, artist, sport person, or business leader, they all start with a vision. What is your vision that might be different now than it was, let's say, 3 months ago? Because the world has actually changed, and who knows if or even when we might get back to some sort of normality that we are used to. But I think things have changed, and some of the changes that we are seeing now will also be for good, because I think big companies have also realized that technically we don't need all this office space. You know, business as usual kind of continues even if everyone's working at home. So maybe the majority of people, you know, have to work from home. Maybe that's one of the requirements. Who knows? So be your best self because everyone else is taken. So be the best version of yourself, get your vision and take back control, because you are the destiny, or you are in charge of your own destiny. Adapting a growth mindset. So this growth mindset was coined by Professor Carol Dweck, who wrote a fantastic book called Mindset, Changing the Way You Think. And she explains why it's not just our abilities and talent that brings us success, but how we approach it. What's our mindset like when we approach a situation, a task, or a challenge? So a growth mindset means you embrace challenges and hard work to improve your performance over time. You see challenges and perceived obstacles as a chance to experiment, solve problems, and you're on a journey of continuous improvement. So that's the difference. So she recognized that successful people, she interviewed quite a lot of them for a book, and she found that successful people have the growth mindset rather than the fixed mindset, where you believe that your ability or your talent is innate and unchangeable. Either you're great or you're not great at certain things. You view task completion as either a win or a failure. So in this current situation, it's definitely helpful to have a growth mindset, to be on a continuous journey of developing, adapting, learning from mistakes, try again, learning from others, and finding your own way in order to become a better version of yourself. So that's number 2. And number 3, being resilient. A word keeps popping up quite a lot recently. So being resilient, what is that? You bounce back early from setback, the ability to spring back into shape and recover quickly from difficulties or change. How long do we spend in the denial or resistance phase? Do we spend days, weeks, months even, denying or resisting that change is happening? How quickly can we bounce back and embrace something new and different? So there's an example of Admiral Stockdale, who was the highest ranking US naval officer who was in prison during the Vietnam War. And they were kept, him and a few others were kept in solitary confinement 24 hours a day, lights on, and slept in shackles. And that went on for about, I think it's about 7 years that went on. But how did they survive? They developed a way of actually communicating with each other by tapping on the walls, remembering each other's birthdays, remembering events that's happening, how they managed to survive by communicating. And he said the people who didn't make it were the people who were optimists, blind optimists who said, we'll get out by Christmas, we'll get out by Easter, come next summer, we'll be out, definitely, things will change. But he had a sense of realism that things will change eventually, but maybe not just now. So that's the Stockdale paradox, that he managed to survive and get through it successfully at the other end because he had a realistic and human approach to being in that solitary confinement. And you have to accept the things that cannot change. And the courage to change is the things that I can, the wisdom to know the difference. So you can learn more about that when you have chance for that. The 4th thing that we need to be aware of is how we manage our threat response. I mentioned the amygdala hijack earlier, but the automatic processing of information is quite astounding when you think about it. As human beings, we process things on a regular basis throughout the day, and most of the things that we do during any given day is totally automatic. We do it without even thinking. And so it is with responding to situation or responding to people or people's interactions. We respond with our okay, so this is Daniel Kahneman's thinking, who wrote a book called Thinking Fast and Slow. Some of you may have heard of that one. And it is about your system 1, which he kind of coined. That's a phrase that he coined, that the part of our brain, which is the fast, the unconscious, and the automatic part of our brain, is for everyday decisions from walking, talking, typing, shopping, making a tea, making a coffee, doing what we normally do. And he thought that 95% of the things that we do and decision we make throughout the day is somewhat built into a habit. So it's automatic, but it's also quite error prone. So when we are responding to change, we are likely to go with our fast, unconscious gut instincts because we feel what we feel. It's the amygdala that takes over and saying, well, this is what's happening. This is how I react. This is how I feel. This is me. This is who I am. But if we want to be better at responding to change and the ever-changing environment, we need to activate what he called our system 2, which is your prefrontal cortex, which is the slow part of the brain. It's the conscious part of the brain. It takes effort and it's where we make complex decisions, and it's more reliable than the other. So we need to channel our energy into making rational decisions so that we can create a better, more assertive, more logical outcome for ourselves, rather than being stuck in self-preservation mode, denial and resistance, and pushing back to what is inevitable and what is going to happen anyway. So that's the fourth thing that adaptable people need to have. So the fifth and the final one is what I mentioned earlier, which is some degree of emotional intelligence, which is taken from the book by the same title of Daniel Goleman's book, Emotional Intelligence. Sometimes that can matter more than actual intelligence quotient, but emotional intelligence, that is the ability to understand and manage your own emotions, manage those of people around you, to understand the emotions of people around you in order to create better informed decisions. So within emotional intelligence, there are 5 different competencies, and these are better self-awareness, a high degree of self-awareness of what you feel and what you do when you do it is stage number 1. Once you are aware of your feelings and the emotions that are behind your actions, then you're on stage 1. Stage 2 is to self-regulate those emotions. Decide for yourself through rational thought whether that reaction is the best way forward or not. So being able to regulate and being aware of your body's feelings and intuition at any given moment is 2 of the most important things when it comes to emotional intelligence. Thirdly is motivation. Is what I mentioned a little bit earlier when I said you need to have a clear vision and a direction, and being able to motivate yourself in order to achieve a goal. So that's the third one. Staying motivated is key, and it can be difficult to find your motivation, to find your drive, to find your energy and enthusiasm in the midst of a chaotic world that we're all in at the moment. Channeling your empathy. Your empathy is your understanding of other people's thoughts and feelings when they're doing it. So if I were in your shoes, imagine yourselves in the shoes of others helps you to create better informed decisions, because it's not just about you and how you feel and what you want to achieve. You also need to respond and have some sort of empathy and understanding for how other people feel and perceive, and recognizing differences. Everybody can't just, blindly agree with you all the time. You have to have some degree of empathy and understanding of other people's thoughts and emotions. And social skills, which is a bit tricky now that we're not even allowed to socially engage with each other in the same room, at least. Hopefully, I do hope that will change soon, because as a human being, I certainly crave social contact, social interaction. And when I can't be with people, this tool and medium, the webinar, is certainly one that is a good second best. But I'm hoping and I trust that we will get back to some stage of normality where we at least socialize again, because that is the lifeblood of us as human beings, the energy that we get from being with other people. Some people have at least that energy. Other people get their, drive and enthusiasm and energy, working in your own environment, and that's okay too. So those are the 5 common traits of adaptable people. So, but what can you do? What can you do in order to be more positive and be more goal orientated? So you can train your brain to be more positive in 21 days. You can train and practice anything within 21 days. You can change your habits in 21 days. It is exact, well, it's not an exact science, not a medical science, but through experiments, it's been proven that you can create a new neurological pathway within 21 days. And what does that mean is when you try something new for the very first time, it feels exceptionally awkward. And that's normal because you've never done it before. So Once you've tried it once, you tried it twice, and you continue to learn from your mistakes and improve, and you have a growth mindset that you will continue on a journey of continuous improvement, after a while, you have created a neurological pathway that the brain recognizes next time it is in the same situation. So it's part of your automatic processing, becomes easier, and you embrace it. So here today, I'm going to teach you 5 easy things that you can implement straight away in order for you to train your brain to be more positive in 21 days. First of all, be grateful. And that is, write down 3 new things that you're grateful for every single day. So today, find 3 things that you are grateful for and write them down, and do this every day. Number 2, journal your positive experiences. So when you have a positive experience with others or with yourself or whatever it might be, write it down. 1 every single day you can write down. And once you get through this, you can revisit them and keep reading them. So you're programming your brain to remember the positive experiences more than negative experiences. Okay, so exercise. Some of you mentioned that you've been exercising more, which is fantastic. I'm a firm believer that exercise, keeping this instrument that you've got in top shape, helps you to feel better, be more energized, and it also helps you to think clearly, think more straight, and be more rational, because it increases the circulation of oxygen in your body. It increases and exercises all your organs, and it is a win-win all around. Your metabolism is better through exercise. There's so many more positives that if doctors could prescribe exercise, they would do it. But it's not a tablet that you can take and then suddenly, you know, the value of exercise is there. Mindfulness and meditation helps you to focus. It helps you to focus on yourself, focus on your breathing, and creating the right balance in your body. Mindfulness. There's some wonderful exercises that you can do on mindfulness in order to control your thoughts, control your feelings, and control your body through relaxation and deep breathing. There's lots of it out there. And conscious acts of kindness, not just writing down positive experiences, but pay it forward. You know, every single day, think about the one thing that you can do in order to pay it forward and be kind to other people. So, so if you do this every day, in 3 weeks' time, you will have created new neural pathways, and your brain becomes to looking for the positives in life rather than the negative. So your neural pathways become more positive. The amygdala, it shrinks, and our prefrontal cortex thickens up, which makes us less emotional, becomes more assertive, more rational, and more logical, which means ultimately that we are better placed to embrace change, which also we could face the music and dance. Now, on that note, I'm not going to dance for you here at this webinar. That is for sure. That's for another time and another place. So, but thank you very much for listening. Thank you for participating. We will now be joining the second part of this webinar, which is a Q&A session. I'm happy to hang around. I'm happy to answer questions that you may have. So please do, you can type it in the chat function, or we can do it also in the Q&A function. So any burning questions from 16 attendees that stuck with us for this webinar? Any thoughts or questions, comments, things that I need to talk a bit more about, for example? Does anyone have any questions? Maybe, maybe not. You can put fingers to the keyboard and type in any thoughts or comments or questions that you may have. The Q&A is open. The chat function is open, and I'll keep my mind open. or if somebody wants to unmute themselves and speak to the group, we can also do that. Anna, thank you. Tips on how to stop fearing change. Okay, so the fear of change is our gut instinct, it's our defense mechanism, because we're quite happy with this quo. So Nyosha, yeah, we can open the videos. I'll stop sharing my screen and we can all go on video. Let's see, new share. Stop share. There we go. So yes, so I was talking about how do you stop fearing change. So two things, Anna. You need to think about whether change that is coming or you are faced with, whether you have any influence to change or influence the outcome of that change. If there is an ounce of hope that you can influence that change and try to make it better for you or for others, then I would be inclined to advise you to be proactive and try to shape that change that is coming. But if it's a sense of fear and anxiety for the changing environment that's happening around you, you need to take control of what your focus will be. What does a successful outcome look like? Try to define that successful outcome for you in order to create a sense of purpose and direction for you. And then certainly, you know, sometimes a bit of fear is also nervousness, which also the same part of your body, which is excitement. So when you're excited about something, it's the same kind of emotional turmoil that you feel when you are nervous. So I very often talk to people that I'm coaching and I'm working with to swap, you know, nervousness in your mind to excitement. So if you're nervous about something or anxious about something, say to yourself, I'm very excited about this, you know, which is a positive way of facing the new situation. Hopefully that helps you a little bit, Anna. If not, please do shout out. I'm happy to explain a bit more. Gunnar, I confirm that a networker point of view, the conscious act of kindness and paid forward is a great conduit for making change. Thank you very much for that, Gunnar. Are you brave enough to show yourself to the world and expand on that, hearing from your experience there, Gunnar? I'm inviting you. I'm challenging you even. But yeah, networking and helping others is a great way to create a better impact and influence for yourself. Even if you don't want to, you know, stand on the barricades and shout about how good you are, you can all try to connect other people, connect people through networking. And how can you help others achieve their goal and be the enabler for other people to succeed? So, message from Nyosha. If somebody wants to talk, you can raise your hand in the, I've lost my pan. Oh, there it is, participants. So if you want to raise your hand, you can. And then we can see if somebody wants to join in with a live conversation in Vision, for example, as well. Rikke, the life-altering changes that have happened recently can mess with motivation. Tips on keeping motivation high. Ooh, tricky one. So I think what's happening with lots of us is that we have got used to doing things a certain way, and suddenly everything else is changing, and it's hard to keep motivated. And I certainly find it hard to be motivated when I'm running around the one house and the one building all day, and every day feels a bit like a Groundhog Day, and that's absolutely normal. But to keep motivated, try to stay focused on the small increments of change for the better that you can achieve. So trying to, you know, maybe reduce the ambition level slightly in the face of this crisis, and find that one step in the right direction that you can take. What's the one small step in various areas, whether it's work, career, home life, health, well-being even? What are the small incremental steps that you can take in order to achieve your goals? But motivation is difficult. If you are living in your own bubble, it can be tricky. Involving others in your motivation is one step in the right direction. I find it, because it creates that level of you've shared it with others, therefore it's kind of out there. I think from my perspective, I was telling people that I should always run a marathon. And I think I said it for about 7 or 8 years. And then I felt really bad because I told everyone that I was going to do it, but I hadn't actually done it. So that created a sense of I have to commit to it because I've shared it with other people. So staying motivated helps if you have somebody to share it with, and create yourself a plan and design what success looks like, and taking into consideration the difficult environments. So that's some tips here. I hope that helps on keeping the motivation high. It's difficult when you are in lockdown. I totally get that. I also find it hard to stay motivated because the goals and ambitions that I had about 3 months ago are different to the ones I'm having now. We have to respond, we have to adapt, and we have to embrace the new reality and the new normal in order to achieve what we want to achieve. Gunnar Larsen, no, you family eating breakfast all around me. Very good. Okay, it's hard to talk when there's cornflakes and pieces of toast flying around. Okay, Mahala, an eye-opener. Thank you very much, Anneli. What is your one advice to be able to change if someone would like to change but haven't been able to do so? Okay, that is a very good question, Anneli. And I think from my experience is trying to unpick reasons for their inability to change. And so going in with open-ended questions and a kind of a coaching approach, which is asking questions such as, tell me more about that. Can you explain the situation? Can you describe what you are feeling and what is happening at the moment? Or questions is, how can you help? Or can you tell me what success would look like, for example? So try to have a look at some resources around coaching, leadership coaching even, or just general coaching, and finding the GROW coaching model tends to be quite beneficial, and looking into that and asking the right types of questions. So the GROW is to make sure that there is a goal. That might be difficult to find a goal even if somebody's resisting change, or they haven't been able to change. So trying to have conversation from their perspective, channeling your empathy and trying to understand them, or get them to understand themselves for the feeling or the situation that they find themselves in. So try to look at something around that, Anneli. It's not easy, and there's a complex situation as well. But ultimately, this is not a quick win. I don't think there's a magic bullet to this. I think it's committing to a process of conversations over time, because your thoughts and feelings about the lack of change, it needs to mature, it needs to develop. But keeping it into the open through conversation and awareness is certainly a step in the right direction. Hopefully that helps, Anneli. If not, then please do shout out. Any other questions or thoughts from others? Anything on the Q&A? We're staying in the chat function. So in lockdown, it's quite hard to get inspired, since I get inspiration from my surroundings and by socializing. Nyosha. Killer question. Okay, so inspiration. I mean, I'm a kind of a from medium to extrovert, I would say. So I get my ideas and inspiration in a collaboration and in contact with other people. But finding new sources of inspiration can be difficult. And I'm not entirely sure about what I would advise on that, is finding what inspires you. And if I can't be with other people, what can? Can we do things through webinars? Can you do anything there? Or is it listening to music? Is it about movement? Is it about going for walks? Is, you know, using positive visualization even can be one way to get inspiration. And I think it's tapping into your creative mindset is key. Whether that's through art, is it through music, is it through movement, is it through through other elements that you can possibly do. It's a tricky one, but trying to find connections with others, and you know, and also seeking advice and asking questions to others and actively engage others, saying, I am struggling with inspiration at the moment. Could you help me? Can we have a chat? Can we do something? And I think it's about reaching out and not thinking that you need to have all your ideas within yourself in order to do. I think it's about sharing how to do it with others. And then keeping in mind that socializing will come back at some point. It's only a matter of time. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, final ones before we go back to our breakfasts or back to our daily routine or exercise even, or mindfulness, meditation, whatever it might be? Kåre is back with us in vision. Okay, Gunnar, inspiration can also come through interaction with fellow members of your chambers, associations, card club. Yeah, we are all here to help facilitate and are happy to do so. For example, more social events, quiz nights, beer tasting. I missed that one. I wish I'd come to that one.
Well, there might be another one.
It might be another one. It was my son's 11th birthday on that day, so I thought, I've got a cake in the fridge that I need to share with him, so I couldn't. But I'll definitely be up for the other one. Quiz nights is fantastic. I've got one every Saturday. What events do you want? Connect with us, please. Yes. Somebody has to go. Okay, so please stay connected, people. Stay connected with the Chambers of Commerce. We are here to help, engage, and help each other. We are not alone. We are together, and together we will be stronger, more resourceful, and we will come out stronger and better than ever before. So thank you, Gunnar. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining in. I think we had about 16, 17 people with us here today, and thank you for me this morning. I'll leave it to you, Kåre, to wrap up this session today.
Thank you so much, Kåre. This is very interesting, and it looks like it was good engagement. So I think everyone is happy. Yeah. So thank you, all of you. And I also know now what's wrong with me. I in the beginning, so I'm amygdala hijacked. That's
you amygdala hijacked.
Yes,
oh dear.
Yes.
We can work on that.
Self-diagnosing.
We'll work on that.
But thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I saw some names here I would like to speak to, but drop me an email. Have a good day, all of you. Thanks a lot.
As well. And if you want to connect on LinkedIn, please do hit me up and just say that you met me on this webinar. I'm happy to connect, happy to help people as well, and take things off in offline as well. So thank you, Kåre. Thank you, the Chambers of Commerce, and enjoy the rest of your days, everyone.